Hey, it's Richard Butler of Ebits.ie showing you how you can help local businesses and make money too. So let's start to ramp things up a little bit in this lesson and let's discuss what hosting is, because it's a very important thing that you must be able to explain, and it's also quite an interesting business to have. So hosting is where there is a powerful computer or a server connected to the internet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you place your website, you place your website on their server by buying a hosting account from this hosting company. Now, the server is managed by a company, which means that you don't have to install anything, you don't have to worry too much about server maintenance, etc. Now, you might ask, well, why can't I do it myself? Now, back 20 years ago when we used to use dial-up, it would have been impossible because you dialed up you dialed up to your internet service provider, you connected to their network, and you used the internet for a couple of hours. Oof, that's bringing back so many memories, that. But nowadays you might say, well, look, I have broadband, I have fiber optic, and it's connected 24 hours, 7 days a week. So why can't I host the website myself? Well, there's a couple of technical reasons. You'd need special software, and you're letting people potentially have access to your home network and other technical aspects. But the other problem is it's against the TOS of your ISP. Now, what does that mean? So it's against the terms of service of your internet service provider. Because let's say you could technically set it up, and you got somebody to technically set it up, because it can be done. The problem is, if you got a lot of traffic, you would be using up a lot of bandwidth, and your ISP wouldn't be too happy. The thing is, your site will go down, there'll be lots of problems. So it really is much better to get a hosting service from a hosting company. Now, why you need to provide hosting? Well, it's an ideal complementary service when you're offering local business marketing. It provides a recurring income year on year, because the thing is, when somebody builds their website, they believe that it is very, very difficult to move that website from one server to another. Now, in reality, it's not that difficult. And I myself, I've been hosting websites for probably the best part of 10 or 12 years. And I've moved hosting providers probably 3 or 4 times in that time period. And it's not that difficult to do. But I normally will tell my clients, it's not that easy to do. If you're happy with the service, just stay with the service. And I've had clients for maybe 7, 8, 9 years who constantly pay me money for the hosting service. So what are the costs? Well, you might pay the service that I recommend costs $40 a month. So let's say that's just under $500 a year. Now, this service allows me to sell my own hosting. I'll explain that in the next slide. And what I can do is, let's say I sell the hosting for $100, and if I have 10 clients, that's $1,000. So I'm hosting all of my websites, plus I'm making maybe $500 a year in profit for doing very little, because normally there's not a lot that I have to do in order to maintain the websites. Now, the last thing it does is it helps you look like an expert, that you provide the whole service package. So the types of hosting that you have are shared hosting. This is where one server will have multiple websites, and it could have multiple reseller accounts. Now, what a reseller account is, and it's what I have, is where you can provide hosting, shared hosting, to other people, and the hosting company take care of all the hardware, etc. So I look like a hosting company, but in fact, I'm buying my hosting from another company, if that makes sense. And you'll see that there are some sites which will say we have an unlimited shared hosting, and that's usually just for personal websites. If you want to resell the hosting, you have to get a reseller account. Now, the advantages of shared hosting is it's cheap. You're not going to have any setup issues, because the hosting company take care of all the backups, the maintenance of the hardware, etc. The disadvantage is it may be slow, because if you think about it, there could be 1,000 websites hosted on one particular server, or probably more. So if one of the websites gets a lot of traffic, it could slow down the processing power for all the other websites. Now, normally what will happen is the hosting companies will actually have a facility in place where if your website is using up a lot of processing power, they will ask you to move it to another type of hosting, which we'll see on the next slide. The other problem is, and I had it with my previous hosting company, which I was with them for about 3 or 4 years, but it was spam issues. Since we're all coming from the same server, if one of the sites hosted on that server sends out a lot of spam, the email, the IP of that server will be banned by a lot of email service providers. And what happens then is that your emails start to bounce, they won't get delivered because there's a spam flag against that particular server. So this can be one issue, and it's an issue that I've experienced in one of the previous companies that I was hosting with. Now, let's say you have a website, or you have a number of websites that are very busy, they're getting a lot of traffic. Your hosting provider will recommend that you transfer them to a virtual private server. Now, this is still one server, but you are guaranteed server resources. So they may only take 5 clients per server, let's say, or 10 clients per server. And they say, okay, you're allocated all of this server power. And then whatever you do is your business. If you have 100 sites and it gets really slow, well, then that's your problem and you're going to have to sort it out. But it doesn't affect anybody else on the server, because it's like it's sandboxed, which basically means that each of your client websites, or each of your section that you have as a server, is just for you, and it doesn't affect any other client account that may be on that server. Now, this is more expensive due to the fact that you're getting dedicated resources. They guarantee that you're getting a certain amount of RAM, a certain amount of processing power. But the advantages are that you're guaranteed the processing power. There's no interference from other sites. So if another client who's hosting 50 sites is spamming, that will have very little effect on your part of the server. Okay, normally, depending on which way the hosting company have set it up. The disadvantages is it is more expensive, and it may require some setup on your part. So the hosting company may say, we're going to give you the processing power, but you need to set up all of the control panel, or we can set it up for you, but at an additional cost. Now, let's say you outgrow a virtual private server, you can get a dedicated server. Now, this is ideal for power-hungry websites. So if you want to have a full e-commerce website that's going to be processing 10,000 transactions a day, shared hosting is not for you. Okay, the VPS, the virtual private server, maybe not either. So you would need a dedicated server. So this is that you actually have a machine that is dedicated just for you. Okay. Now, the advantage of this is you have full control over this machine. There's no other clients on the server. There's nothing that's going to interfere with your particular server. However, the disadvantage is that you will need to set up the server, because they basically give you a box. They install the minimum of operating software, and you have to install everything else. So that can be tricky, and you may need to have a system administrator or a sysadmin in case something goes wrong. Normally you can pay for support, but you're starting to add more and more more and more cost to your actual system. So what's the best option? I've never outgrown my shared reseller hosting. And I like it because it's cheap and all the maintenance is done for you. So there's no, if a server goes down, you don't have to worry about it. They will bring it back up again. They will change the power supplies. They will change the hard disks, whatever it may be. The company that I recommend, and the link is in the comments, also provide like a lead pages. So for lead captures, they provide a really good system to create lead capture pages. And also they provide an alternative to WordPress, if you so wish, that you can build your sites with a site builder that they have. But they also offer an email autoresponder, and that's something that we'll look at in another video. But an email autoresponder could be costing you alone $40 and you won't need all of the power that the email autoresponder gives you for $40. So for $40, what you can get is an email autoresponder, a lead page designer, and also hosting. So it's a really good deal. As I say, the link is in the comments. Now, as always, for more information about local business marketing, to find out about the course that I'm putting together, just sign up at the link below, which is Ebits.ie, local business marketing.